Hello everyone and welcome back to CappingTV and the Champions Gauntlet. We'll be bringing the second series of the night. Is going to be between ADSL2 Plus versus Kraken Black. Both teams have gone in a very similar fashion to the previous teams that we saw tonight, winning 3-0 in their first week, but dropping to some of the higher teams 0-3 in the second week. So both teams looking to right the ship as they try and make sure that they're going to be on the upper side of the bracket when it comes to how this Swiss format is going to be able to be played out. And yeah, interested to see how both these teams are going to be coming up against each other.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we just had an absolute banger that took pretty much it's kind of like the Undertaker from WWE. Like you know what? How like I don't know how you pay attention to any of that, but no, it's more that sometimes like his whole thing is that he takes a little bit of you every time he wins. Like he reaps your soul. He takes part of you, right? So it's kind of the same thing with that game. Is I feel like my soul was just a little piece of me was just stolen in that game because it was so incredible.
Yeah, it was one of those series where it's just you don't really see series like that too often. I mean, you see it every now and then, but every time you see one, it's just like, wow, it's, you know, that's a special series. And yeah, I'm interested to see how both those teams do end up coming, or how they end up progressing throughout the rest of this event. But now coming into these next two teams, ADSL2 Plus and Kraken Black, hadn't seen too much of them, but just having a look at some of the teams that they did end up losing to, or at least playing over the past couple of weeks. Kraken Black actually end up losing to the Melbourne Mavericks, so even though you don't necessarily want to be going down, losing to a team like Melbourne Mavericks, it's one of those losses that you're like, okay, it's not necessarily unexpected, and yeah, it's interesting to see how they bounce back from it.
A lot of players that I do recognize in this server. Very, very curious to see who's going to come out. I do have to give, I think, the early favor to Kraken Black. But we do go to Nepal. That's our first map. Just quickly run through if you missed the last series. First map's Nepal. Then you get Escort, an option between Gibraltar or Junkertown. Third map's Hybrid, an option between Kings Row and Eichenwald. Fourth is Assault, option between Hanomura and Volskaya. And fifth finishes on Control at Lijiang Tower. If we need a tiebreaker, Ilios is that tiebreaker. Now, though, we are live out here on Nepal.
Yeah, and we're going to be starting off in the village. Interesting way to start things off. Very different compared to the other two in what we've been seeing in terms of the meta lately. Usually there will be, well, at least on this map of Nepal, there is a lot more of the Mei, a lot more of the shielding, a lot more of the zone control, especially when it comes to area around the capture point, because it is so vastly different in style to the others of Nepal.
Count it down. 3, 2, 1. We are here.
Yeah, and already we do see Acacia's actually picking up the Pharah, wanting to have some of that aerial superiority and some aerial support. And on the other side, it doesn't necessarily have the best of options in dealing with that. But already they have made the way towards the point without sustaining too much damage, as we do having good engagement coming in from Ziv, with that Doomfist managing to displace a lot of people, but not able to get too much done out of it. Backs away immediately as the shields are doing their job here on the point. The point already being captured on the side of ADSL2, as now it's time for Kraken Black to try and make the way into the point, try and get a fight to go in their favor, but already Acacia's dropping a little bit too close to Gus, who just ends up lasering him down with that Symmetra.
Trying to find any of these kills. They need to find any way to get back on to this point and put some pressure in. 20% and climbing right now for ADSL2 Plus. Will it work out for them, though, is the $1 million question. They're trying to find any entrance. There's nothing coming through right now. they're just letting this go, but Ziff going down is going to be a big stifle to the offense to try and get back onto the point.
Yeah, already losing one member, and it's not looking much better the longer this goes on. The shields are there, just a little bit too many shields there for the side of ADSL2+, and they just don't have the best tools to be just chunking through a lot of these shields. We do have the drop down, but already walls and shields are in the way. They just clean up occasions before anything can get done, but because they turned all their attention over to that barrel for that barrage, they did leave their rear completely exposed, and they were able to get a couple of kills themselves. Ziff finally getting in on the action, managed to take down the May, and this fight is going to go over to the side of Kraken Black.
However, 68%. We almost got the 69% there. I thought that's where it was going. Almost got the nice. Is still, regardless, a nice start. That was the segue I was going to use. It's less effective, but it still stands. That's the case where we are. Trying to come back in, though. It's a tall task to try and hang on to this that long. One good fight and one good forward hold, and you might actually be able to pull it off right off of this.
Yeah, and already they've made their way onto the point thanks to the Symmetra teleporter, and already they've taken down Olidus, and also Loon is going to be falling as well. So that's the front line completely removed from the fight, and because of the way that they're able to move around, Gus doing a decent amount of work with the Symmetra in being such a pivotal key unit in making sure that they're able to move themselves around the map, get into the capture point without too much of an issue. And yeah, once they get in there, it's very hard for them to be dislodged.
Well, they're trying to find an answer. They're trying to find any response, but is it going to be too little, too late? Is $1 million question. No, the barrage from Akocious is red hot. 4K for him. That's one way of doing it. That's an incredibly effective way of doing it.
Definitely does the job, and they're able to switch it back over as it hits 99%, as this is starting to look a little bit reminiscent of our previous series, as we do have Acacia stepping forward and making a very forward defense with this Pharah, trying to get a little bit of damage done, trying to work his way back towards another rocket barrage, because we saw just how important that was in locking them down and giving themselves the point back. But will they be able to hold them back, as we do have the switch over to the McCree, and already it looks like ADSL2 are in a very good spot. The resurrection had to be used, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough, as it looks like ADSL2 are going to be able to clean up the rest of this fight without too much issue, as the stalling is going to try and come in. Maywall is doing a decent amount of work to keep out the rest of the team, but that is going to be the first checkpoint going over to the side of ADSL2+.
Nice and easy for them, too. Outside of one good Pharah ult, they just didn't have an answer for anything. They really struggled, Kraken Black did, to try and get back into that point. Let's see if they can continue it as we go to what I affectionately call the Spire. It's not the actual name for it, but it kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you ever played like Star Wars Battlefront. Like
I played like the older Star Wars Battlefront, like the old school one, not the
the aesthetics of this kind of reminds me of like Renvar from the very first game.
Yeah, now that you mention it, yeah, I definitely see. But anyway, we do have mirrored compositions here for both sides coming into the shrine. It is the shrine?
It's the Renvar. It's Renvar Citadel. That's all that it's going to be known as for the rest of this.
Fair enough. But already, Loon getting a kill. Ziff not very low on that Reaper. Does manage to race his way back out to safety of his supports. But Maka may be able to punch down one of those pesky supports, the Lucio getting wiped off the map, but the rest of the team doing the job, and it looks like Kraken Black is going to definitely have the advantage here on this second map. Big time Stonewall. As they have that point, they start to eke their way forward, and it's a little bit better than they did in the last map. This next engagement is going to be very key, because if it's just a quick flip, Kocious is in a great spot. He's spotted out, though. Could be in trouble. No, falls away. As Ziff gets another kill there onto Gus. He's winning the Reaper duel for the time being. And again, that's actually just going to send ADSL2+ away. They just turn the tail and run. Yeah, it looked like they pulled the double fake there They saw Acacius and it was like, alright, so that's the one person who was waiting to flank us. Turns out that was a second person waiting to flank, and they got caught out by the second one. And they're trying to get it to work again as a good engagement comes through, but not able to get too much done as Acacius is going to get cleaned up by Ryzul, and now it looks like they are forced back and have to be very cautious with how they play this out. As here comes the left, see if they're able to get too much done out of it. A little bit of damage, but no one has been finished off just yet, as Wally's going to get the kill onto Guts thanks to the Coalescence. And Coalescence both sides, but Royal Rice is actually getting in on the action. Here comes the Death Blossom, does manage to pick up one, occasionally getting in on the action as well. And even though they did lose someone very early, they're able to get a couple of kills themselves and turning this fight around thanks to the respawns.
They are going to continue to find these kills. Ziff and Acacius just doing so much work, finding all the kills. And now Kraken are just cruising. Is there not even going to be a cap here for ADSL2+?
Yeah, it's looking like when both sides are playing this very same composition, it looks like Kraken have definitely got a bit of an advantage when it comes to just the straight up gameplay, as it looks like they're going to try and finish this round right here, right now. Here comes a great engagement by Acacius, manages to slam right down onto the supercharger, picking up Flying Luigi's at the same time, ends up punching Gus through a wall. And it looks like this fight is pretty much done and dusted. Marker is trying to get something done in a response. Does manage to pick off the poor Lucio. It doesn't look like it's going to be enough in the grand scheme of things. Coalescence coming in from both sides. Kind of cancelling out in the grand scheme of things. Rice going to take him down. Marco as well. Ryzul is going to fall in the meantime as well. And that is going to be a 1-1 now, as Kraken make their way back onto the scoreboard.
And with the impressive showing there, makes you think that this could completely rattle ADSL2+. And if they don't have any response here, this could actually just set the tone for the rest of the series. They could just completely roll through.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely wouldn't be opposed to seeing a very close back and forth series, but if it goes as long as it did before, I think I'd be dead by the end of it, to be quite honest.
Well, we have a pause, so that's
one way to drag out this series, I guess.
Yep. And no one's really said why it is. It's quickly undone though, so it's fortunately a short pause.
Probably just one of those quick. I'm lagging a little bit. You want to just the LP just a little bit. As we are getting into this third and final round, we are inside in the temple, and we've got I'm looking at the compositions, a little bit of differences here and there. Acacius is actually going to go back to the Pharaoh, and yeah, similar to what we saw in that first round. In the differences between the two compositions, we'll see how they're going to match up here on this third round.
Well, they're down in the bunker trying to fight this out, trying to find ways to find anything. And Gus gets a nice opener there onto Loon. Luigi is traded out, and Loon gets respawned, courtesy of the res from Valeria. And now can they find any of these kills? Barrage is completely stifled. Acacius is down. Dink doing a great job so far. These kills, ADSL2+, they've nestled their way onto the point. They're doing a good job so far. They're looking poised to get the first cap off here.
Yeah, it looked very similar to what we saw back in the village, where we have this very clumped, condensed unit of ADSL2 able to get themselves towards the point. They did look a little bit different on this round because there is, well, the point itself is a little bit more open, but the whole theory of it seems very similar, where the very condensed unit is able to just be a little bit too much to deal with, a little bit too much to push through, and the shielding a little bit too much HP on those shields, whereas this long range of Acacius on the Pharaoh is just trying to get work done, trying to just soften things up for Ziff to come through with the Doomfist. We'll see how this next approach comes in, as we got trades back and forth, as Loon is going to be thrown right off the map thanks to Maka. Here comes the engagement, here comes the slam, we got the slam jam, thank you ma'am, as the engagement comes through to finally get one down in Gus. Here comes the Supercharger, see if they can get much more out of this, but immediately Supercharger has been dismantled by the long range shots of Acacius. fight is still going to continue. Finally, Luigi finally gets the kill down onto Zip. Wally is going to go down as well. And Marco somehow managed to get the kill onto Acacius, and throughout all of that, the fight is again going to go over to ADSL2.
Oh man, these kills continuing to come in. Flying Luigi picking off Olidus as well. Now they get the setup for the stone wall up front. 70% so far. ADSL2 Plus looking poised to take map number 1. Can Acacius and Co. find a way back in?
Side note, Flying Luigi's a brilliant name.
It's a pretty good alias. But now they have delved into the point. They're trying to find their way back in, and Sif going down is not a good start as Flying Luigi's gets the job done. Acacius is down as well. This is looking very dire with both DPS gone. It doesn't look like there's much hope for Kraken.
Yeah, it's not looking too great. They tried out with the Pharaoh. Didn't work on either of the rounds that they brought it out. And even though they did switch over to the Reaper, it's a little bit too little too late. It is already into overtime, and they are losing members left, right, and center. Acacius does make his way onto the point, but he's literally the only one. It's absolutely brutalized. And even though they do have a Wrecking Ball making their way towards the point, Gus is going to make short work of that. And as you mentioned, ADSL2 Plus gets that first map win after it seemed like a really nice back and forth. ADSL2 just kind of dominated that last round.
Big response after their weak second segment as well, so really good to see out of them. We'll see if they can continue to pull this one out, though. Will this be a quick 3-0, or will this go the distance? Definitely know that some people out there would be very keen to see this one just be a quick 3-0. That would be the ADSL2 Plus fan base. Kraken Black, their fans would want this to come back the other way.
Yeah, and funnily enough, with that, just looking at that play of the game, we had the Doomfist go in. It was Acacius who got like a 3-man with that Rocket Barrage, but no, it's the Doomfist that's punching people that ends up getting it. All right, it's a weird, I don't know.
What a time to be alive.
Yeah, it's we've gone to.
We're going to Junkertown apparently. That's our next map.
Ooh, nice. We've gone to the point in Overwatch where if you get like 2 or 3 people in a Rocket Barrage, it's like, yeah, talk to me when you get like 4, 5, 6.
Well, series has its next spanner in the works. Junkertown in an effort to dismantle ADSL2 Plus lead. Of course, that's the second of our 5 maps that we potentially will see.
I mean, if we are going to be seeing, well, if Kraken are wanting to play around with that Pharaoh or just some long-range compositions in general, Junkertown is a great map for that.
I'm just staring at this takeaway sign. I'm pretty hungry. I could go for some food. What do we got here?
Yeah, I've got dinner waiting for me.
Pork buns.
I've got some Chinese food waiting.
I can go for some pork buns. I can go for some pork buns. That'd be good. I don't know what else there is.
I got noodles.
I want food. It's 4:30 a.m. I haven't eaten in like 8 hours. I'm starving.
I can't help you now. We're on completely different continents. It's a little bit hard for me to help you with that.
Feed the Canadian. Hashtag free Canadian. Hashtag feed Canadian. I mean, I don't know why I said free. It's feed Canadian.
Are you free though?
No, I'll be free when this game's over.
Were we all? Anyway, it is going to be, I believe, it's going to be Kraken on offense first. We'll see how this defense comes through. It is going to be the double, or the triple sniper setup coming out for ADSL2. Interesting. We'll see how the offense goes. It looks like it's going to be a similar composition on offense as well. So, yeah, interesting to see how this one plays out.
They managed to essentially mirror each other, just a slight difference on healers. We got a Mercy instead of a Moira, but they still have M. So, you know, we're almost identical.
Pretty much. It's close enough. I mean, yeah. I mean, they do a lot of healing. I mean, Moira is much more of the aggressive style. And especially when it comes to the ultimates, the Coalescence versus the Valkyrie, you can have a lot more well, you can do it an awful lot with the Coalescence. We've seen it throughout the series and throughout the night, throughout the kind of year that she's been relevant in a way. As the payload is going to be able to continue for quite a decent chunk of this first checkpoint, making it at least halfway through before the first real contest starts to come through, as we do have Wally dropping considerably low as a great grab does manage to knock them above the shield, but Gus does get a kill onto Ziff as they try to be a little bit sneaky around the side wall, as Gus does manage to pick up another one as well. Nicely done there on this Widow. Managed to go to third, gets all the snipers, as if finally does manage to get the return kill, shuts down that sneaky Widow, finally gives himself a little bit of space to work with.
Yeah, and he's gonna swing around the side trying to find these kills, trying to find anything he can. Really, it's just the nuisance that he can cause is just enough. You force teams to look at you, and sometimes you can find yourself some space for your teammates. However, the spawns are gonna be here just in time, which is gonna start to be a response as Gus finds that kill onto Ziff. And pops the wall, hacks off. Loon falls as well. And the defense will hold for the time being. Coalescence is out. They're trying to find Olidus. They do. Can they find anyone else? You better believe it. That's essentially a team kill. The spawns come back up in time, so we are robbed of the bell, but it works out the same way anyways.
Yeah, it looked like in that fight, the front line just stepped a little bit too far forward, essentially in front of their own shield. So they just got cleaned up, and from that point, we saw how it played out. Once the front line goes down, they're able to just move their way forward and just clean up the rest. Especially with all these snipers, you've got a lot of open area to work with. Ziff flies way up high to try and get a nice sneaky kill, as here comes the slam. Does manage to bring one down, as they also take down Acacius. They do get a return kill onto Marker, but it's not really looking to be too much at the point, as Ziff does manage to get a couple of kills for themselves with this Widow, trying to open up a little bit of space, but the snipers duels are going to be able to continue for a little while longer. Dank is going to just glue himself to the payload, trying to make himself as much of a nuisance as possible. Here comes the infrared vision, see if they're able to get some extra kills because of it. They do manage to clean up the rest of the fight. Not much left here for the defense, as the Flying Luigi's is going to be the last one there. Actually, as Gus actually switches over to the Tracer, gets absolutely less than zero done. As, yeah, it looks like this first point might finally go in favor of this offense.
Yeah, it's just got a wee bit further to go, and that is just a formality at this point. Cap comes in. Now the defense tries to set up, and they've got a nice little forward spot here. You don't usually see teams hold up here, I'm finding, at least on Junkertown, so I'm curious to see how this goes out.
Yeah, it's usually a little bit more of a... Well, this seems like a much more aggressive defense, wanting to play from this area rather than a little bit back further, as here comes the Dragon just running straight through them. They do end up splitting apart, but they're not going to be able to get hit too badly by it, as here comes the return Dragon. Doesn't get too much in response as well. Here comes the Coalescence to keep everyone nicely topped up and try and hose down a few of their opponents at the same time, as the damage is going to be coming through in droves, as the offense is going to be pushed back a little bit. Acacius does get a kill finally onto Roy Rice. Gus goes down as well, as Acacius getting a couple to their name, and now is a little bit of extra space coming in for the side of Kraken to make their way forward and play very aggressive, try to walk past the shields and lay it down some of the damage. Acacius finally goes down, gets resurrected, and here comes a lot of the ultimates starting to come through. Big slam coming through, doesn't manage to finish anyone off, but does a decent amount of damage. Here comes the lift, getting thrown to the ground, as that Centaur doesn't like being in the air for too much longer, ends up falling down. As, yeah, it looks like Kraken finally able to secure the space themselves, as they finally, eventually, clean up these pesky little nuisances on the card.
Yeah, they finally managed to find the remaining kills that they need, and now we might see... Are we going to see any changing comp? Not really. So they are just looking to stick with what they've got, even though it's not entirely working for them. They're still committed to the effort, which I respect.
Ooh,
Ziff gets the opening kill on a Dank insta-pick. And that's going to stifle things, as they do still try and commit to this. But a big ante pretty much shuts it down and says that's all she wrote already. Gus gets a kill on the Valerica, and Ziff goes down. So there's a window for them here. Dragon's out on the field.
Acacia's just shutting that down completely. Just picks off Gus, throws the dragon to the cart, and yeah, gets another kill for himself. So it's all started from that opening kill onto Dank. You have to say that if that Orisa was there for any point of that, probably would have been much more viable of a defense, but once that goes down at the literal start of that engagement, you know you're going to be in for a rough fight.
Oh, this fight, Ziff going down early is a nice start. Rez comes right back in, and the dragons fly out. Gus goes down to Acacius.
Ooh, that's a lot invested here.
A lot invested, and it's not paid off even slightly, to be honest with you. There's a kill on Acacius, which is solid. Flying Luigi's goes down again. The remaining picks feels like they're going to go to the way of Kraken. They continue to find all of these kills. They're still zoning off these players. Ryzul's in a ton of trouble. It's a free kill. Nothing able to be traded back onto, and this feels like Kraken are going to continue to roll. The defense just can't get set up for ADSL2+.
Yeah, they're trying their very hardest, but yeah, they're just dying just one by one at this stage. As you mentioned, it's hard for them to set up, and they're just making it a little bit harder for themselves as they try and trickle in, try and get some cheeky kills, but it's not working out for them and making things worse as they finally have some ultimates for themselves. And here on offense, they do have the supercharger. See if they're able to make the most of this as they get real close to this third checkpoint. Here comes the lift. Can they get much more out of it? Good slam onto 3 members as Ziff manages to finish off Royal Rice, and that's a big kill. Getting that Moira out, getting a vast chunk of that healing out of the way. Let's see how much more they can get out of it. Here comes the Nano Boost down onto the Doomfist marker, trying to get work done, trying to punch some people around. Does manage to get Acacius, and that is going to open up some space, and he's drawing so much fire here. The resurrection comes through as Marker finally gets taken down. Here comes the dragon to split apart this defense. They do know where everyone is, thanks to Ziff's ultimate. Flying Luigi does manage to finally finish off Acacius in that back line as the Sigma's doing a decent amount of work. Ziff gets the kill onto Gus, but throughout all of this, they have finally been pushed back with only 10 seconds left on the clock, Graham. They don't really have much time for a reset.
Yeah, that's gonna just about do it unless there's a miracle way for them to get back onto this. And the Doomfist does get in, but that's instantly cleaned up. The Wrecking Ball is around. Should be dealt with relatively quickly as well. In fact, it is. Mercy flies in, also dealt with. It's just a formality at this point. Just throw in yourself and try and save it.
Yeah, and that is going to be eventually a hold. It did get pushed an awfully decent part of the way through the entirety of that map, but yeah, it's going to be pretty hard for them to actually push that all the way. I mean, we saw how well that defense was able to get set up, even though there were opportunities for them to just push all the way through. The defense was able to even scrappily make their way, or scrounge together a defense. So now we'll have to see just how it plays out on the other foot, because we saw just how well the defense was on this first point. For the side of ADSL2, we'll see how ADSL goes on offense, because we saw just a lot of the snipers for both sides. We saw the Hanzos, we saw the Widows, we even saw the Annas. Gus and Ziff doing a decent amount of work as the respective Widows, but Acacius on that Hanzo, especially when it comes to the second and the third point, we just saw just how much work was able to get done using those sonic arrows to give themselves the vision, and also those dragon strikes coming through, coming in at really, really nice times to at least give them some space. But now coming into this defense, and I'm excited. Ziff is on the Ash. I'm excited to see this one plays out, Graham.
I was gonna say that it's not gonna happen. You can stop your begging. It's not gonna happen, but Ziff is very much out. And they're on the Ash. We are going to see this. That's the world that we live in. We also live in a world where it's pirate ship time, as there is the Bastion out on the field trying to shred away. Trying to play a little game of Shred Dead Redemption. We'll see if I can connect on any kills. Pirate ship is sailing at the moment, and there is a burning Widow. That's Gus trying to cause a nuisance as well. Wally is going to get mauled down by the Bastion. Still out here just trying to do so much damage. Aka's in so much trouble, though. Should die. In fact, finally will die. As pirate ship was very quickly broken open. May not be the most effective route to go up against this comp. But they put the res back in.
Yeah, that's one thing
we'll
that we
can make it work.
Yeah, there's one thing we didn't really talk about when it comes to when we saw in the previous round there was the Moira versus the Mercy and the advantages between the two. Like, yes, Moira does bring a lot more of the offensive threat, but the Resurrection does end up paying for itself in the long run when it comes to those drawn out engagements. But right now, we saw it work out very nicely for the side of ADSL, as they do manage to get a pretty clean path all the way through to that first checkpoint.
Yeah, they are just continuing to roll it around the corner. They have a long way to go, but the one thing they can take solace in is the fact is that their opposition did not cap. Cautious is up on the Bastion as well. That is going to be displaced. And Robert is on the field, and he's being quite rude for the time being, causing all kinds of problems, but he has been obliterated. However, in the process, they lose Maka. Oh, and Gus goes down too.
Yeah, that's not the ideal situation, as they do use the grab to try and drag them together, but this Baptiste has allowed this team to be very, very annoying and just stick around. It's just a couple of pirate ships, or a couple of bunkers at this stage, because they are not even sticking to the point, as the TNT is going to be doing a decent amount of work, as Gus has actually switched over to the Genji, but gets shot in the back of the head by Ziff on the Ashe. Doing a decent amount of work with this Ashe here, and already got another Bob ready to jump into action.
Yeah, a lot of players were on fire, and that helped farm up a ton of ult. Well, this forward bunker does seem, or high ground bunker does seem to be getting the job done. A lot of ultis up though for both sides to try and deal with the situation that they're in. And the Sigma ults could actually be so impactful here, as could the Baptiste ults.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of ultimates on both sides. They're just waiting for the first one to go, and then it's just going to tee off. Actually, the symmetry allows them to get all the way back in behind them, but they just essentially switch positions, but it's going to be a complete grinding down as they utilize a lot of the damage amplification thanks to that window of pain, and also the supercharger to just wipe through that defense. And yeah, although there wasn't too much used on defense, it was essentially just a Valkyrie.
That was still a beautiful play though. Like, that worked out phenomenally to use the teleporter to get in behind. Really heads up play, really smart solution for ADSL2+. Robert is back on the field. Robert is removed from the field.
They just sent him into his demise real quickly and didn't even back him up. How rude.
Cautious is actually going to be picked off as well before that shield goes up. Big time pick by Maka there. And the Bastion is still rolling. The players condense on the point, trying to deal with him however they can. But the tank's back up now with the res. And will it be enough? We're going to have the other tank come out, finds the kill. And there you go. Pretty easy. Another time is quite good. 4 minutes to try and get it almost to the end. They don't need to fully cap. They just need to get so very close.
Just a decent chunk of the way there. I mean, it is very doable, and especially with the amount of time that they have left and how well they've been managing their ultimates. I mean, yes, they are down in the amount of ultimates that they have, but they have some good ones to work with. The Sigma ultimate, they do have the giant wall to essentially split apart this next fight, but on the other side, we have some big ones to work with. The Cautious is going to start teeing off, as Marco's going to be the first one cleaned up. The Resurrection does come through. Not sure how useful it's going to be, as on defense they are throwing a lot at them. As this is going to be at least one very strongly held defense.
The thing is, though, is this has baited out a lot of ult use, as you mentioned. There was a lot invested by Kraken to try and hang on to that, and there's already a pair of ultis up for ADSL2+ on the offense. They have swapped over to the Doomfist from the Bastion to try and cause a few more issues. And Gus is over on the Reaper. So they're a bit behind on some of these ultis, but the fact is so much is already up for them to use.
Yeah, they're not even going to try and use that Baptiste ultimate, realizing that that's not the name of the game right now. They are switching over to what we've seen more commonly with the Reaper and also the Moira. See if they're going to be able to get into a position where they're not going to be just shredded down by this Bastion. They do manage to get underneath them and try and nullify that positioning for the rest of that fight, as they already take down Loon. A good start to the fight, getting rid of the Orisa and those extra shields. Acacius, the big key target. Yes, there is the Baptiste ultimate coming in for the defensive side, but it's not nearly enough. The resurrection does come through onto Loon, and some kills are starting to fall in favor of Kraken as they take down Gus, but the fight is going to continue
Sif's
on.
Blossom is up right now, and that will be the difference maker in this fight as it finds two. Only two, though. It came so very close. A few players lived a bit longer than they should. However, he's going to get the last one on the Maka. But it does get rid of the Bastion problem for the time being. They are going to stick with it, though. Acacius is feeling confident. This could be their downfall.
Yeah, and it's looking pretty good here for this defense now that they've finally got something set up. Yes, there have been some adaptations coming out from the side of ADSL2, but we saw how well the adaptation went for them. They managed to get a good couple of kills for themselves and potentially set themselves up for a good fight, as Gus is going to be the first one taken down immediately in this fight, so that is going to be a big key damage dealer, just not useful for the rest of this fight. Well, they need to drag that for quite a while if they want it to be of any use. They take down the Immortality Field, as we do have Zip trying to get a bit of a good drop down, or at least getting some good damage in for free, as here comes some ultimates being thrown into the mix. Not able to get too much out of it as they drop him in.
It's a wrap play, though.
Yeah, they just back away and try and come in at a different angle, try and nullify the positioning of that window pane, as they do end up losing Gus yet again. The Cages managed to get that one, taking down all of the supplementary tools. But despite all of that, they are losing out on the fight here.
Yeah, the Bastion damage is just too strong. They've gotten so close, but they don't have a lot of tools up now. There's 3 ultis on the defense. There's only 1 on the offense. They need to farm up pretty quick because they only have 20 seconds. If they can kite some of these ults and get the job done, it's just still workable. There's still an opportunity, but they need to do a good job of nullifying a couple of these ults.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Valkyrie not going to be doing the most, it's not going to be doing damage, but here comes the lift. See if they're able to get something out of it. They're good, a little amount of damage. See if they're able to follow up on it too well as the...
Oh, Zip falling huge. That's the ult removed from the field. That's the biggest tool on the field. There is... Oh, and the Blossom from Gus. This might actually just work out in their favor. The card is still going to continue to move forward. Zip has spawned. He can get in here. The Blossom is huge. Is he going to find anything? No. They're shutting it down. They're finding all of these kills. And ADSL2 plus come down to the wire, but they pull it out. They are now up 2-0.
And it was looking so good for the side of Kraken. They were in such a good position. And as you mentioned, getting the kill onto Zip, onto that Reaper with who had that Death Blossom up at that key moment was enough to just swing momentum all in their favor. And I was very, very ready to call it for Kraken right there, but ADSL2 coming in with that clutch fight at the end there, really just spinning it on its head.
Now, the question is whether on this last map, is this the last map? Potentially.
It is potentially
King's Row or Eichenwald. That's the world that we could live in.
We're expecting King's Row, because that's just the way things have been. It's like, do you really want Eichenwald when King's Row is an option?
Yep, King's Row.
Exactly. It's King's Row. So we'll see how both these teams do play on it, because ADSL2, and Kraken, to be quite honest, bringing some very strong play and very good understanding of ultimate usage and economy, and how to manage that. Understanding, yeah, we had some ultimates to use, but because they didn't want to be wasting time utilizing ultimates in a bad composition, they just shifted off it. They had the Baptiste ultimate at their disposal, just switched immediately over to the Moira, understanding that the advantage of having, that the Baptiste ult would bring doesn't do anything for their composition. So I really like that they're able to make those calls and make those adjustments. And it worked out in the end for them. I mean, they got the map win.
Yeah, really heads up plays. Really smart job thus far. We'll see if they can keep it going, though. One more map. That's what's on the table. It's all that ADSL2 Plus need. Kraken Black, they're up against it. They need to go for the reverse sweep, run it back, take it in 5 maps. It's not an easy task, especially not with the way that ADSL2 Plus are adapting to everything Kraken throw at them.
Yeah, they're definitely not making it easy for them. I mean, it looked pretty damn good for Kraken. They had a bit of a rough time on those first 2 points, getting cleaned up pretty efficiently by some very heads-up play and some very ingenious, some very inventive ways of coming into the point and trying to just like circumnavigate the globe with a lot of their Symmetra play. But yeah, that 3rd point looked really good for Kraken up until they lost it. That's usually how it goes. You can look so good for 99% of that map, but if you lose that final fight, you're done.
Well, now we almost have an answer. We almost have an answer of, is ADSL2 Plus this dominant? Or is Kraken alive and kicking? What's left for them? What's left in the tank? This is gut check time. This is all to play for. And
This
now
time
we are live.
And it's now time to, you know, release the Kraken. I was kind of expecting, yeah, it had to come out at some point during this.
That
Anyway,
hurts so bad.
exactly why I said it. Anyway, they are making their way towards the point. Similar compositions on both sides as we're kind of expecting at this stage as but this defense holding strong. The engagement comes through from the Doomfist, not able to get too much as they immediately make their way out of it, as if trying to get in onto the backline with a drop down from up high, unable to get too much done, has to wraith away as this defense holding strong. A great knock up there, but unable to get too much more out of it as this fight is going to continue until ultimates start coming up onto the board.
Big kill there from Maka on Cassius is a great opener. So much more damage is coming out right now from ADSL2 Plus, but now it's faltering. Starting to be run back as the players from Kraken start to retreat. Loon gets caught out. Now they try and find what left that they can. Flying Luigi is going to hang on to his life. And looks to be the only pick they're going to get is Valerica.
Yeah, really solid first defense there. It was a bit of a drawn-out affair. We even saw multiple ultimates coming out on multiple sides. Here comes the big lift, managing to hit multiple people, slams them all down, but Bob's not necessarily there. Here comes the sound barrier on defense and even the supercharger, so they are in a great position to take this fight. Whether or not the offense wants to keep on going through, as Zeph drops down because immediately shut out of that. Acacia does get a good kill onto Marga. That's a key figure to take out of this fight. A good slam coming in from the side of Flying Luigi's as they are trying to keep this fight going. It's just trading ultimates back and forth. They're just slugging it out. And here comes another Death Blossom. Again, no one falls throughout this fight frame. It's just going to go on indefinitely almost.
Yeah, finally though, Dank falling and a tick being capped might mean the end for it. Maka gets a kill onto Ziff. But again, 2 ticks in, this will be surely the cap as the remaining players should get cleaned up. Or maybe not. There's hope. There's a window for them here as Rizal finds another kill on Cassius. Finally, the cap is going to come down. 4 minutes in the bank for them to work with.
Yeah, and Malcolm and Rizal were just in real unfortunate situations as that got captured, so they just had to essentially die as quick as possible to get back to the rest of the team. But yeah, it was a real, incredibly drawn-out affair on that first point, but eventually they were able to secure it for themselves. And let's see how efficiently they can get through this second point, because more often than not, if you get the first point here on Kings Row, you're likely to get the second one, barring some certain circumstances where you just lose a fight and then just get shoved all the way back into spawn. But it doesn't look like that's going to be happening here.
Yeah, they're moving this pretty well so far, but now their first real challenge is since they've started the curtain. Okay, that's one way of taking an engagement, just piecing the F out. That's what they chose to do. When in doubt, leave.
Fair enough. It's a vastly underrated strategy, just leaving. As the supercharger has been used on offense as they make their way forward. Here comes a big lift, see if they're able to get too much more out of it. Drops Valerica on their head as Luigi's going to get dropped down. As Luigi is going to get a kill as well. They've only responded with a kill onto Marco, and that's not nearly enough to keep them alive in this fight. This is defense holding strong, and I did say that you're very likely to take second point unless it gets shoved back into spawn, and it's starting to look like we might run into a similar situation there.
Well, they're trying to fight, they're trying to contain these kills. And again, they're doing a good job. Sif is in a lot of trouble. He's going to be condensed upon very heavily. Free kill there. Acacius actually gets one in the back on the Maka. And now we're having this like back alley brawl. Let's try and rotate back around to the cart. It's working out so far. Gus does get taken out. However, I'd still say there's an advantage to ADSL2 plus. Cart moves a little bit further. As a bit of a wrap comes in to catch Olidus out. This is a chaotic fight, but the cart still moves.
Yeah, and because they did end up confining themselves to the bar here, the side of ADSL2, they have allowed a little bit of space on the carpet. Here comes a lot of ultimate supercharger, coalescence. The sound barrier on defense is going to help them out, but it's not nearly enough. The amount of damage coming through is just way too much as they force them all the way back to spawn, and even it looks like Gus is getting in on the action as as one surefire way to make sure your opponents are like, yeah, let's just really quickly retreat because they are coming at us with a lot of power.
And the thing is they managed to build back a good chunk of ult. Maka is very close to the Doomfist ult. Gus managed to get the Reaper ult off of that. So we're very even in engagement. Ults are very similar, very close. There's a coalescence up for the offense. They have the Sigma displacement up for the defense. And Zif going down is a big start of this engagement. We're continuing to shut them down. 45 seconds left in the bank. And Kraken, they don't really have answers for this.
Yeah, they really don't.
Like.
Yeah, and it's really hard for them to make a very considerable push towards the cart because of how many different angles they have to be worrying about. Because we've seen we've seen Gus drop in from a very interesting angle. Well, same with Marka, so have to be very careful and very cautious and very wary about a surprise Gus with a Death Blossom. Here comes the Supercharger on offense and the Coalescence as well, but Acacia's already going to get taken down. Marco does return to the fight, but gets cleaned up. Here comes Death Blossoms left, right, and center. I just can only hear Reapers ulting in my head as they clean up the rest of the team. As, yeah, this defense holding on incredibly strongly. As I was very ready to call them having a very simple second point, but that is not to be, as ADSL2 are holding on incredibly strong. They're just having to clean up the rest of these stragglers. And that is going to be a very solid hold here for the side of ADSL2.
Yeah, that's going to stifle it. Not very far is what ADSL2 Plus need to get the cart. Problem is, they need to even get to having a cart. And that has been a challenge for teams in the past on this map.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, in the previous series, it took both teams a while to get to their first cart. But once they got there, they were able to push all the way through to the end. It's just a matter of actually getting to the card, as you mentioned. So we'll see how this one goes, because if ADSL2 are able to get to a card, I'm not too worried about them being able to get a very considerable push with it.
Well, it's certainly a workable scenario for them. It's just a matter of doing.
Absolutely.
So as a man has once said, nothing to it but to do it.
Pretty well said, yeah. I mean, what much more has to be said? As yeah, if ADSL2 are able to push it the required distance, they will win this series 3-0. But if ADSL or if Kraken are able to hold on for long enough and restrict their gains, they will take this map and force us to a fourth map, which will be of the Assault Discipline, and will give themselves another lifeline in this series.
Well, I think some people out there, I've seen some people in chat pulling for ADSL2 Plus, so I think the people want this to end right now. Can think of some good reasons why. The question is, can they make it work? They need to find the opening kill. They're going to get Ziff to wraith away to try and stay alive. Flying Luigi's is in a bit of trouble. Could be a big hindrance, but Maka comes in off the Doomfist, finds the opening kill. That's a lot of healing off the board. That's a Lucio down. That's a very pivotal pick and a great start to this. They need to find the next kill, though. That's the challenge. And the health is a little bit better on the opposition.
Wow, and very early coalescence on both sides as the fight's going to continue. Oh, they actually starting to get some kills as Goss manages to pick up both of the DPS on the opposing side, and that is going to really help out and make a lot of the sustainability much more useful. It does manage to bring up a couple of people, but died in the process. That is not going to help out as Goss really filling out that filling out the kill feed.
Yeah, he found everybody. He got a 6K to open up the point. I don't know if that's play of the game, but that should be play of the series.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely up there. Getting all of them is usually... It's usually a very easy way to get kill a play of the game.
It's not like and the best part is it's not like he got all of them by, like, pressing Q. He got all of them by just, like, clicking for days.
Yeah. And it is one of those compositions that it does end up playing out like that. If you just keep on left clicking, you are gonna just output immense amount of damage as you do have a meteor strike coming through. Doesn't end up killing anyone. Is going to be forced to retreat. Here comes the supercharger on offense. We'll see as a great lift up. See how much damage is going to get done. It drops two to the ground. One goes down, and here comes the Death Blossom. Does manage to pick up one. Gus yet again just filling out the kill feed. The rest of the team is helping out, but it's not really looking like it's going to be as necessary, as that is going to be a cleaner fight as you're ever going to see it, and that is going to be the end of this series, as it is going to be ADSL2 Plus coming through with a clean and quick 3-0 victory.
That was just about as dominant as you could possibly like. Flying Luigi's best alias in the game. He's gonna get the play of the game with the winner at the end there.
That is play of the game is the
walks off.
Yeah, the one to finish off the series. I mean, it's a good way to finish it off, and that was just an incredible ultimate, just to get everyone up in disguise, and the amount of damage that does once you just throw them to the ground, it would made it so easy for the rest of the DPS to follow up on.
So my question is, as always, most valuable persona.
I mean,
most valuable muchachos.
I was really liking Flying Luigi's on the Sigma, but gosh, it's so much work. It's really hard to pick between the two for me, to be quite honest.
I was gonna go with Gus. He took them to absolute pound town, especially on that last map. The final engagement there, he was the difference maker in this fight. But overall, incredibly dominant by ADSL2 Plus. Great job by them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you have to give at least some credit to Kraken, who did at least push them to the limit in some of those rounds and made them work for it. But yeah, it looked like ADSL2 Plus were just that bit better on the night.
Well, I think that's all for us here at CappingTV for the Champions Gauntlet. I've been Graham Morrison, aka Grahamcast, joined by GL Phoenix. That is at GL Phoenix on Twitter, if you feel so inclined. I'm also at Grahamcast on Twitter. Here for CappingTV. We will see y'all next week. You can always drop a follow as well to get notified. Next week is when we'll have more Overwatch action. We'll have some Counter-Strike for the rest of the week, though, down the docket. I believe that's what's planned. So drop us a follow and stay tuned. Have a great evening, everyone. Drive safe.